the quiet shift you may not notice. Sometimes the most profound changes don't arrive with fanfare. They settle quietly, almost imperceptibly, shaping how you see yourself and the world around you. You might not feel different on the surface, yet there's a subtle shift in how you think, how you respond, and even what you value. It's easy to overlook these moments, dismissing them as ordinary. But often, these quiet shifts are the beginning of breakthroughs that feel far larger than what you imagined possible. It's not uncommon to feel like you're moving through life differently from those around you. Friends may not understand the decisions you're making, and family may question the path you've chosen. Even simple choices, what work to pursue, how to spend your time, what to believe in, can feel isolating. Growth often requires solitude. This doesn't mean you're alone in a permanent sense, but that periods of reflection and self-examination are essential. They create the space to notice patterns, confront old habits, and align with what truly matters to you, recognizing the patterns you carry. Everyone carries invisible scripts shaped by childhood, society, and relationships. These patterns show up in recurring frustration, repetitive mistakes, or even subtle discomforts that seem to follow you. The first step toward transformation is recognition. Pause and observe your recurring experiences without judgment. Ask, where does this discomfort originate? What does it reveal about my beliefs, assumptions, or fears? Recognizing patterns is not about blame, it's about clarity. It is an act of self-respect and honesty that lays the groundwork for meaningful change. Emotional architecture of change. Change isn't just a cognitive process. It's emotional, physiological, and deeply intertwined with how your brain has learned to interpret the world. Growth often feels uncomfortable because the mind resists recalibration. It's like renovating a room while still living inside it. The structure shifts, walls creak, and familiar corners feel unstable. Understanding this emotional architecture helps you navigate it with patience. You begin to notice that resistance is a sign of transition, not failure. When you allow space for emotions without rushing to suppress or rationalize them, transformation deepens, the subtle power of small wins. Progress rarely comes in sweeping moments. More often, it emerges through consistent, small decisions that align with your evolving self. Choosing clarity over confusion in daily interactions, setting boundaries with care, and celebrating tiny victories, even ones others might dismiss, compounds over time. Small wins create momentum and reinforce the new patterns you are cultivating. Over months and years, these seemingly minor acts accumulate into a profound shift that rewires confidence, resilience, and self-understanding, internal conversations that matter. Much of growth occurs in the private dialogues you have with yourself, the narratives you tell about failure, success, worthiness, and possibility shape your experience more than external circumstances. By becoming conscious of these internal conversations, you gain the ability to question unhelpful scripts and experiment with new perspectives. You may notice, for instance, a habitual inner critic that reappears during moments of uncertainty. Acknowledge it, explore why it arises, and gently redirect your attention toward reflection and constructive curiosity. This practice transforms not just what you do, but who you are internally, the role of perspective in growth. One of the most overlooked aspects of personal transformation is perspective, the lens through which you interpret experiences. Two people can face the same situation and emerge with completely different understandings of themselves and the world. Perspective is not about denial or forced positivity. It's about noticing that the meaning you assign to events is something you can influence. By observing how your mind frames challenges, you start to distinguish between facts and interpretations. This distinction is subtle but powerful. It allows you to step back from automatic reactions and see options that were previously invisible. As you practice this, you may find that situations that once felt insurmountable now present opportunities for learning, self-discovery, and quiet empowerment, trusting the process of self-reinvention. Transformation doesn't follow a linear path. There are days when progress feels tangible, and others when it seems as if you've regressed. This ebb and flow can be frustrating if you measure growth solely by external markers. Instead, focus on internal signals, moments when you pause before reacting, choices that reflect values rather than habit, or new ways of connecting with others. These subtle signs indicate that the process is underway. Trust develops not as blind faith, but as recognition of incremental change. By paying attention to how you respond, adjust, and reflect, you cultivate resilience and self-reliance, the very foundation of long-term breakthroughs, integration of past and present. A common challenge during transformation is the tension between who you were and who you're becoming. It's easy to reject the past, treating it as something to escape, or to cling to it, fearing the unknown ahead. Real growth requires integration, acknowledging past experiences as part of your story while choosing which elements serve your future. Integration is not about excusing mistakes or clinging to regrets. It's about honoring lessons learned and allowing them to inform wiser decisions moving forward. When you achieve this balance, you carry the wisdom of your past without being limited by it, creating a stable foundation for whatever comes next. The subtle influence of environment. Your surroundings, both physical and social, play a quieter but profound role in your transformation. People, spaces, and routines can either reinforce old patterns or support new ways of being. Shifts often require gentle but deliberate changes. Spending time with those who inspire thoughtful reflection, curating spaces that foster focus and creativity, or creating routines that reinforce values rather than default habits. Awareness of environmental influence isn't about control or perfection. It's about alignment. When your external world supports your inner intentions, breakthroughs feel more natural and sustainable, listening to inner signals. The body and mind communicate in ways that are often overlooked. Intuition, energy levels, emotional responses, and subtle shifts in attention can serve as guides through periods of growth. These signals are not mystical. They are manifestations of accumulated experience, learning, and self-awareness. Listening carefully to them allows you to make choices that are congruent with your evolving self. You may notice, for instance, a recurring sense of discomfort in certain routines, relationships, or environments. Paying attention to these sensations, rather than dismissing them, can redirect your focus toward areas ripe for development. The nature of authentic momentum. Momentum in personal growth is rarely dramatic. It emerges from consistent alignment between thoughts, actions, and values. Authentic momentum doesn't rely on external validation or sudden insight. It builds gradually as you reinforce new patterns, cultivate discipline, and embrace self-reflection. Over time, the accumulation of these choices shapes identity in ways that feel both natural and inevitable. It is this quiet, persistent forward motion that often leads to breakthroughs so significant they feel like a new chapter in life, even if the steps along the way were subtle. The quiet power of observation. One of the most transformative skills in life is learning to observe without immediate reaction. Observing your thoughts, emotions, and patterns in real time allows you to notice recurring tendencies that previously went unexamined. This isn't about detachment or suppressing feelings. It's about creating space between stimulus and response. In this space, you gain choice. You may notice a familiar impulse to react defensively or a habitual way of interpreting criticism. Simply acknowledging it without judgment begins to loosen the grip of old conditioning. Over time, this practice strengthens self-awareness, helping you navigate challenges with clarity rather than reactivity, rewriting the internal narrative. Our sense of self is built on stories we tell about who we are, where we come from, and what we are capable of. Many of these narratives are inherited or unconsciously repeated, rather than actively chosen. Transformation often requires examining these stories and considering whether they reflect your current self or merely a past version of you. Rewriting the internal narrative doesn't mean denying reality. It means emphasizing resilience, curiosity, and growth rather than limitation. For instance, instead of framing past mistakes as failures, you can view them as lessons that illuminate your values and decision-making framework. This shift subtly changes how you approach new opportunities and challenges, balancing ambition with presence. Personal breakthroughs often come when ambition and presence coexist. Ambition drives forward motion, goal setting, and exploration of potential. Presence ensures that this motion is aligned with awareness, reflection, and emotional attunement. Many individuals pursue goals relentlessly but lose touch with the nuances of daily life, relationships, or self-understanding. Conversely, excessive focus on being present without forward motion can create stagnation. The integration of ambition and presence allows you to move with intentionality, guided not only by desire but by mindful understanding of yourself and your environment, transforming resistance into guidance. Resistance is often misinterpreted as failure, procrastination, or lack of ability. In reality, resistance is informative. It signals areas where change is challenging because old patterns are deeply ingrained or values are misaligned. Instead of forcing progress through sheer will, reflecting on resistance can provide valuable insight. Ask, what is this resistance trying to tell me? Which habits, beliefs, or environmental factors might be contributing? When approached with curiosity rather than frustration, resistance becomes a guide rather than a roadblock, revealing opportunities for alignment, adaptation, and personal refinement, deepening awareness through reflection. Reflection is the lens through which growth consolidates into insight. Taking time to review experiences, decisions, and reactions allows you to notice recurring themes, strengths, and blind spots. Reflection doesn't require hours of meditation or structured journaling. Even short moments of mindful observation can reveal patterns previously unnoticed. By consistently engaging with reflection, you develop a deeper sense of internal coherence, understanding why you act as you do, what motivates you, and which values truly drive decisions. This awareness forms the foundation for lasting transformation, as choices become increasingly aligned with your authentic self. The interplay of mindset and environment. Your environment, physical, social, and digital, interacts with mindset to shape experiences and growth trajectories. Even subtle environmental cues, like the tone of a conversation or the organization of your workspace, influence thought patterns and emotional states. By intentionally curating spaces, interactions, and routines, you can reinforce the mindset you are cultivating. This doesn't require drastic change. Small adjustments often have outsized impact. Perhaps it's setting aside time for focused reflection, surrounding yourself with thoughtful conversations, or minimizing exposure to environments that reinforce unhelpful thinking. Awareness of this interplay allows growth to become not just internal, but systemic in your daily life, embracing complexity in yourself. Growth often requires acknowledging that you are not a simple sum of traits or labels. You may feel contradictions within yourself, ambition alongside doubt, strength alongside vulnerability, curiosity alongside caution. Embracing this complexity is not about resolving it immediately, but understanding that the full spectrum of your internal experience informs who you are becoming. Accepting complexity reduces inner friction and allows you to make decisions from a place of wholeness rather than denial. This acceptance is a quiet but profound shift. It teaches patience with yourself and deepens your capacity for self-compassion. The role of patience in transformation. Breakthroughs rarely follow a schedule. Impatience is often a barrier, creating tension between where you are and where you wish to be. Developing patience doesn't mean passive waiting. It is an active engagement with the present moment, recognizing the slow, accumulative nature of internal evolution. When you allow yourself this patient rhythm, subtle insights emerge naturally, and the mind learns to distinguish between forced effort and intentional, deliberate growth. Over time, patience becomes a stabilizing force, turning uncertainty into a quiet confidence that progress is unfolding even when it isn't immediately visible. Observing the subtle shifts in behavior. One of the most reliable indicators of transformation is subtle behavioral change. You might notice small differences in how you respond to stress, handle conversations, or manage your energy. These micro-adjustments often precede noticeable breakthroughs. For example, choosing to respond rather than react, listening more attentively, or giving yourself space to pause before deciding, all reflect a mind becoming more attuned to awareness and intention. Observing these shifts reinforces growth, as the mind and body begin to embody the changes your consciousness has been cultivating. The inner compass of values. Your values act as an inner compass, guiding decisions, actions, and priorities. During periods of transformation, clarity about your values becomes increasingly important. Conflicts often arise not because the world is chaotic, but because actions are misaligned with what truly matters to you. Identifying and reaffirming values doesn't require external validation, it requires honest introspection. When your choices align with these values, life feels coherent, decisions gain clarity, and momentum builds naturally, rooted in authenticity rather than obligation or external expectation. The power of subtle reframing. Reframing experiences is not about denial or fabricated positivity. It's about noticing perspectives that may have been overlooked. A challenging situation, for instance, may reveal strengths or insights previously hidden. By asking reflective questions such as, "What does this reveal about me?" or "What new approach could I explore?" you create cognitive flexibility that fosters growth. Subtle reframing transforms obstacles into opportunities for insight, allowing even difficult experiences to serve as guides for evolving self-understanding, integrating learning into daily life. Knowledge and insight alone are insufficient for transformation. Integration, applying lessons in real-life contexts, is what solidifies change. This can mean choosing different responses in relationships, restructuring routines to support growth, or consciously reinforcing new ways of thinking. Integration requires consistency, but it also requires self-compassion. Mistakes are not derailments, they are opportunities to refine understanding. Over time, the daily practice of integration turns learned insights into embodied wisdom, shaping behavior, mindset, and identity simultaneously, recognizing the invisible progress. Transformation is rarely dramatic in the moment. Often, the most meaningful growth occurs quietly, unseen by others. You may notice that challenges that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable, or that emotional reactions are softer and more deliberate. Recognizing this invisible progress is essential. It affirms that change is occurring even when external validation is absent. By tracking subtle shifts in awareness, behavior, and self-perception, you reinforce the internal evolution that underpins sustainable breakthroughs. The subtle strength of boundaries. As you grow, the importance of boundaries becomes increasingly clear. Boundaries are not walls. They are a way to preserve energy, maintain clarity, and act in alignment with your values. They protect your focus, ensure respect in relationships, and allow space for internal reflection. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first because it challenges ingrained habits of people-pleasing or automatic compliance. Yet over time, the practice of defining and maintaining limits cultivates resilience, confidence, and a stronger sense of self. Each boundary becomes an act of self-respect, reinforcing the internal growth you are pursuing. Observing emotional patterns. Emotions are often treated as either obstacles to overcome or signals to follow blindly. Developing awareness of emotional patterns allows you to understand recurring triggers, responses, and cycles. This is not about suppressing feelings. It's about observing without immediate reaction. For instance, noticing that frustration consistently arises in certain situations can reveal unconscious expectations or values at play. By tracking these patterns, you gain insight into your internal landscape and can make more intentional choices. Emotional awareness transforms raw reactions into informed responses, creating space for authentic growth. The role of self-compassion. Self-compassion is a cornerstone of meaningful transformation. Growth is inherently messy. Mistakes happen, old patterns resurface, and progress can feel inconsistent. Treating yourself with compassion does not mean excusing errors. It means acknowledging the human experience without harsh judgment. Through self-compassion, you allow yourself to experiment, learn, and recalibrate without the weight of perfectionism. This creates a fertile environment for lasting change, because transformation thrives in a climate of patience, understanding, and acceptance rather than criticism. Navigating change without external validation. Much of true growth occurs outside the gaze of others. Your breakthroughs may go unnoticed, misunderstood, or even resisted by people around you. Learning to navigate transformation without relying on external validation is essential. It is in these moments, when effort is unseen and consistency matters, that internal integrity strengthens. By valuing your own perspective and tracking personal evolution internally, you reinforce a sense of autonomy and self-trust. Over time, this inner validation becomes more reliable than any external feedback, anchoring your growth in authenticity rather than approval, finding flow in transition. Life is rarely static. Periods of transition are inevitable. Finding flow during these times, balancing action, reflection, and adaptation, supports steady growth. Flow doesn't mean perfect control or effortless progress. It's the alignment of effort, awareness, and intention. When you can move with the rhythm of transition rather than resist it, you maintain momentum and build confidence in your ability to adapt. This fluidity becomes a skill in itself, enabling you to navigate both predictable challenges and unexpected changes with resilience and poise, cultivating inner dialogue. The conversations you have with yourself shape perception, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Cultivating a constructive inner dialogue involves noticing negative or limiting narratives and deliberately reframing them toward curiosity and self-awareness. This is not about forced positivity. It's about creating a balanced, informed perspective that strengthens understanding and choice. Over time, the quality of your inner dialogue influences the quality of external actions, relationships, and outcomes, creating a reinforcing cycle of conscious growth, aligning action with identity. True transformation solidifies when actions consistently reflect evolving identity. Insights and intentions alone are not sufficient. They must be embodied in decisions, behaviors, and patterns of interaction. This alignment does not require perfection. It requires attention, reflection, and deliberate adjustment. Each time an action mirrors your values and intentions, it reinforces your evolving self-concept. Alignment between identity and behavior cultivates coherence, integrity, and internal confidence, the very foundation for breakthroughs that feel both natural and sustainable. Strength in awareness. Awareness is often underestimated. Many people navigate life on autopilot, reacting without noticing the patterns shaping their choices. Developing awareness means pausing, observing, and understanding your internal and external experiences. This doesn't happen in a single moment. It's a gradual unfolding. Each insight, each pause, strengthens the ability to respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. Over time, this awareness becomes a lens through which all decisions, relationships, and experiences are filtered, creating a sense of calm clarity and grounded confidence. Resilience as practice. Resilience is not something we either have or don't. It's cultivated through consistent practice. It's built in the quiet decisions to persist, the moments when discomfort is met with reflection rather than reaction, and the conscious choice to continue evolving despite setbacks. Resilience doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it transforms how challenges are experienced. By practicing resilience daily, through thought, action, and reflection, you create an internal foundation strong enough to support continuous personal evolution, emotional integration. A critical component of lasting transformation is learning to integrate emotions fully rather than suppress or ignore them. Each emotion carries information. Fear highlights what matters, sadness indicates where attachment exists, and joy signals alignment with values. By observing, understanding, and allowing emotions to exist without judgment, you integrate them into decision-making, reflection, and identity. Emotional integration deepens self-awareness, strengthens self-regulation, and supports authentic expression in relationships and life choices, reclaiming your time and energy. Growth requires intentional management of time and energy. This doesn't mean rigid schedules or over-optimization. It means understanding what activities, relationships, and habits nourish your evolving self versus what drains or distracts. Reclaiming time and energy is an act of alignment. It ensures that your efforts reinforce your growth rather than undermine it. Over weeks and months, these conscious choices accumulate, shaping both daily experience and long-term trajectory, allowing breakthroughs to emerge organically rather than through forced effort. Take a moment to pause and reflect on the subtle shifts you've noticed within yourself throughout this journey. Consider the small choices, thoughts, and actions that are quietly shaping your growth. What patterns are emerging? What beliefs no longer serve you? Your breakthroughs don't come from dramatic gestures. They come from consistent, conscious attention to the evolution of your own mind, heart, and actions. Today, acknowledge one small step you can take that honors the person you are becoming and carry it forward with awareness. Share your reflections, insights, or discoveries with someone you trust, or simply hold them close, and notice how this quiet engagement amplifies your internal momentum. Growth is ongoing, but every conscious step moves you closer to the future you're steadily creating.